Hey folks, this is Rob Wells here with you from the law office of Robert M. Wells. Our office specializes in helping out landlords and property managers deal with their landlord-tenant situations and problems. In this video, we're going to talk about the last no-fault just cause under the Tenants Protection Act, and that is for the owner to terminate the tenancy to demolish or substantially remodel or remodel the residential rental market. Can't speak today. Before we begin though, landlords, property managers, if you are contemplating doing any type of substantial remodel to your residential units and you have a question about whether or not said remodel is going to qualify under the Tenants Protection Act to terminate that tenancy for no fault just cause, please feel free to reach out to us below. Now, let's begin. Okay, now I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory here. This is probably the most, like when I'm talking with landlords and property managers, probably one of the most misunderstood no fault just cause types of tenancies out in the Tenants Protection Act, because in a landlord's mind, you know, they think any type of remodel is going to qualify for this no fault just cause, and that's just not the case, because the legislature put in a couple of terms and conditions regarding terminating a tenancy for this type of no fault just cause. And I'm actually going to pull up the Tenants Protection Act itself and just read what qualifies, because long story short, a kitchen remodel or bathroom remodel, something like that, you would think that would be a pretty big deal. That actually by itself is not going to qualify. So let's go into the terms of the Tenants Protection Act. And it reads, for purposes of this paragraph, they actually made a definition of what a substantial remodel is. It means the replacement or substantial modification of any structural, electrical, plumbing, or mechanical system that requires a permit from a government agency, or this is another condition, or the abatement of hazardous materials, including lead-based paint, mold, or asbestos, in accordance with applicable federal, state, and local laws. Other condition is that the repairs or whatever you're doing cannot be reasonably accomplished in a safe manner with the tenant in place, and that requires the tenant to vacate the residential real property for at least 30 days. Okay, so as you can see, there are three conditions. Either you have to be basically replacing or modifying any type of structural, electrical, plumbing, or mechanical system, which requires a permit. So landlords, those that don't like getting permits, you're probably going to be out of luck on this one, because the TPA requires that you have to get a permit, and you can't do it safely with the tenant in possession, and it's going to take at least 30 days or longer. Let me read a little caveat at the end of this, okay, for you guys that just want to just do cosmetic improvements. I'll just read it straight out of the code. Cosmetic improvements alone, including painting, decorating, or minor repairs or other work that can be performed safely without having the residential real property vacated, do not qualify as a substantial rehabilitation. So guys, you think you're gonna spruce up your unit by putting a bunch of paint, maybe doing just upgrading some of the kitchen fixtures, that type of deal. That's not going to work here, okay, because you need those three requirements. Okay, so we just covered one point about you're gonna need a permit, and in these types of cases here, I talk with a lot of landlords that are contemplating doing this. One of my things that I advise my landlords that you're gonna have to do if we're gonna do this type of termination of tenancy is you're gonna have to go pull those permits, okay? Because if your case gets contested, we have to show to court that you meet all three of these elements right here for this no fault just cause termination of tenancy. So those landlords that I don't want to do anything by permits, I just kind of do it unofficially, you're gonna be out of luck, okay? Because if you get called out, it says you need the permits for it. The second thing is you can't complete the work with the tenant in possession, okay? So I get a lot of times where, it may be a borderline case where, hey, it is something that, that may qualify, as a substantial remodel. But, the question is, can you do it with the tenant in place? And that is another element that you're going to have to contend with, because part of the deal with this type of termination of tenancy is many of us aren't contractors. I'm not a contractor myself. And one thing that I would have to line up in the event that the case was contested is I need an expert witness, such as a contractor or engineer, someone that's helping you actually perform whatever remodel that you're doing. Because guess what? They're going to have the technical knowledge to advise myself and a judge, or, worst case scenario, if you got to go to jury trial, you got to have someone there testify in court about why can't this be done with the tenant in possession? Because guess what the other side's going to say? They're going to say, hey, you guys can actually temporarily relocate, the tenant here, or you can do the work temporarily with the tenant in possession. And that's going to be an issue of contention there. So, unless you're a contractor yourself, you're going to have to provide an expert witness to advise the court why you can't do this with the tenant in possession. And last item is, because the Tenants Protection Act says it has to take 30 days or longer, you're going to also have that expert witness explain why this work can't be done within 30 days. Because the other side's going to argue, well, you know what? They're just dragging their feet. This could take less than 30 days, but, I'm going to extend it. Which brings the question, landlords, what does that 30-day requirement mean? Does it mean like, the average contractor that takes 30 days, or, my handyman's going to be working on this project, every weekend, for example, as a side hustle, basically. And I know it's going to take more than 30 days. I know the Tenants Protection Act doesn't really say this, and I know this act is pretty brand new. This stuff will have to be flushed out on appeal and like what the definitions are. But the way I see it is, it's going to have to take a reasonable, ordinary contractor, doing what contractors do, at least 30 days or more. So no, I wouldn't say, hey, your handyman coming there every weekend, the job site's vacant for 5 days and then he comes work on the weekends. That's not going to fly. I would read into the code that it would take a normal average person 30 days or more. But, that's something to be fleshed out on the Court of Appeals, that type of deal. I think, it implies that the average contractor, whoever you take it, it's going to take that long to to fix that type of deal. So no dragging your feet in this case, landlords. And I caution landlords, like if you're contemplating doing something like this, you probably need to sit down with a landlord's attorney or someone that kind of knows what the Tenants Protection Act is all about. Because if you don't have any one of these elements, it requires 3. We just read them, basically. You're going to be out of luck in court. And you have to prepare this type of case, just my 50 cents of it, in a way that shows that you clearly are eligible to terminate a tenancy under this fashion. Reminder again, if you do terminate a tenancy for this no fault just cause, you will have to provide at least 1 month's worth of move out assistance. On your termination notice, you will have to disclose to your tenant that, they're entitled to move out assistance, and whether or not you're going to waive last month's rent or you're going to provide them a direct payment within 15 days, excuse me. So those are the requirements for terminating a tenancy for a substantial remodel. Folks, landlords, property managers, if you have any questions about this and need someone to talk to about this, please feel free to reach out to us below. Until next time, folks, if you like these videos, like, share, subscribe to our channel. Check us out on TikTok as well as the Landlord Warrior, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.